This history of Igbos playing the victim card, I just want to ask. Let us not look it through the eyes of Busuye now. In the international community, are Igbos considered the victims of that war? Let's just be sincere so we can move.
No. Let's get that's not how to move on. Let me explain something to you. There's a woman called Margie Parham. In fact, I'll give you two examples so you can make up your mind whatever you think of this. There was Margie Parham who was speaking a lot for Biafra in London. And I'll say this: if you're a human being, and you saw the pictures coming out of Biafra during the war, there is no way you're not going to support Biafra. There is no way. As a matter of fact, if you're a human being and you saw those pictures and you don't know the backstory and you have a problem with supporting Biafra, then you're not a human being. Something in you would make you say something is wrong here. Apart from the fact that you have this David and Goliath matter, which of course people always love the underdogs. Apart from that, if you saw the images, you would support Biafra. Guess what? That was the exact game that Ojukwu was playing. And two people said something that make me understand the fact that this guy played a game, and that game is still working in 2025. Now, would I have supported Biafra seeing those images? I would if I didn't know the backstory. Why? Because you're looking at people emaciated, you're seeing people dying. Naturally, you feel like, oh, so you say, oh, did they say that we are the victims? If that's what you think makes you a victim, then you're not really read the entire story. So I'm going to give you two examples now. Number one is Margie Parham, who eventually became Dame in England, and she supported Biafra until she traveled and came to Nigeria. But you know what? There's one that I think, whose account I think you're going to probably like better, because he didn't only come to Nigeria, he represented Biafra. His name is Robert Goldstein. He wrote a letter in 1968. I'm going to read that letter. Where is it? And also, let me also recommend the Answered of the UK Parliament. That's the plenary sessions that was had in 1968. So I'll read Robert Goldstein's letter first, and then if there's time and another person wants to speak immediately, I will read to you something from the Hansard of. Hold on. This was debated on the floor of the Parliament on Tuesday, 27th August 1968. But you know what? Before we read this one, let me first read Goldstein. Everybody called you a victim before they studied what really happened. Listen to this one. This man, by the way, was the public relations officer for Biafra in the US. Open letter of resignation to the Odumegwu Ojukwu in his from Robert S. Goldstein. This was published in the Morning Post, August 17, 1968. From Robert S. Goldstein, public relations representative of Biafra in the United States. All right, let's go. As your public relations representative in the United States, it is my distasteful duty to tender my resignation based on the following points. Point 1. In November of 1967, when we met in Umuahia, you and your cabinet were very impressive. You told me of your woes, of your little republic, that thousands of people were dying, and more were prepared to die for freedom's sake. You and your cabinet told me you believed world opinion would help your cause if you could get your story across. You expressed the opinion that very few, if any, people in the United States knew of the plight of the Biafrans. You asked me to tell the world that Britain had teamed up with Russia in a conspiracy with the federal government of Nigeria to murder every Igbo in Biafra. I immediately arranged the first world press conference so that your statements and statements of your cabinet would be heard. Finally, the Republic of Biafra was recognized first by Tanzania, then quickly followed by Gabon, the Ivory Coast, and Zambia. Our public relations work was paying off. World opinion was starting to side with us. Peace talks were arranged at Kampala. I thought that if anyone walked away from the table, it would be the federal government. But to my dismay, this is where you begin to know why people change their mind, Obina. But to my dismay, it was Biafra that left the conference. After all the fighting and killing, I knew that peace would not come easy, but I could not understand leaving the peace conference until the last point was negotiated and the avenue explored. The urgent telex messages were received from Biafra, telling of tens of thousands of people starving in the refugee camps, the villages, the bush country, stating if something went down in the next few months, over 1 million women, children, and aged would be starved to death. I immediately contacted the press, urgently petitioned the State Department for action on their part. Food, medicine, and milk were sent to the only available port open for immediate shipment to Biafra via land roads through federal and Biafra territory under the auspices of world organizations such as the International Red Cross, among others. Then came the incredible answer from Biafra that land corridors could not be acceptable until there was a complete ceasefire, and that an airlift was the only solution. I fully expected you to at least accept the word help that was offered your starving throngs. However, you delayed, hoping to use hoping to use these unfortunates with world sympathy on their side as a tool to further your ambition to achieve war concessions at the upcoming peace talks in Addis Ababa. It's a very long letter. Let me stop here to explain something. Everybody saw the pictures. They saw the big tummies. They saw the kwashakor reading human beings, and they felt like something had to be done. But it wasn't because the suffering was due to what was happening in the war. It was due to what Ojukwu was doing. The people were suffering based on Ojukwu's actions. When this man discovered what Ojukwu was doing, that opinion that you're talking about, Obina, changed. He was one of the people that helped craft the world opinion to make people see the war and say, these people are suffering. And truly they were suffering, but the question is, why were they suffering? They were suffering because their leader stopped food from getting into their land. Think about it for a second. This is why one of the reasons I get peace when people support Ojukwu about Igbo matters. I mean, and the funny thing is, I don't even have family members in the East. Why did they block everywhere? Oh God, why did they manufacture you guys? Jesus Christ. Ojukwu was doing what Simon Ekpa did in Finland. He was doing content creation. I mean, me and Ojukwu, in fact, I'm doing a better job than him. I'm not hurting people. Ojukwu was taking pictures of people, ensuring they were not fed, to appear to the world that Nigeria was working with Britain and Russia to destroy the so-called Biafra. The content was what made people to start saying, we've got to do something. These people are being dealt with. They are suffering. The person, and I'm saying this again, the person who helped shape that opinion is the one who wrote this letter. And what did he say? Let's quickly enter into what he said. In the beginning, food was getting into the East. To answer the person in the comment section, food was getting into the East, courtesy Caritas, ICRC, Red Cross. Food was getting into the East until the federal government of Nigeria, and you will find this thing of course in the interview that Awo had in 1983. They discovered that the food that was meant for the people was being diverted to feed the soldiers. And Awolowo said, and I support him 100%, I cannot be feeding my enemy who is fighting against me. I support him. And when he said enemy, he was not talking about the Igbos, he was talking about the soldiers. By the way, everything Ojukwu, if you guys just knew this thing, you will understand your enemy is inside your household. This man went to Benin, ransacked the central, his army went to Benin to ransack the central army, the central bank, and he did it even when Victor Banjo said no. They went to central bank in Benin, central bank in Port Harcourt, central bank in Calabar, stealing money as they went along. And the point is that the way they stole money, they also stole food. The government then said they're not going to send food anymore to Biafra. Eventually, they were able to get the government to agree to send food. And then they were going to use land corridors. One of the reasons, there were two reasons the government stopped food getting into Biafra. Two reasons. Number one, food was being diverted to the soldiers. And that's why you will notice this. If you have relatives from the past, from the 1960s in Biafra, you will not find a single lecturer, teacher, soldier, doctor, architect, pharmacist, any one of those who had kwashoko. If you were useful to Ojukwu, you got food. My question to you is that where was the food coming from? I mean, apart from the fact that Ojukwu stole groundnut from the north, which he did, by the way, in Port Harcourt. Apart from the groundnut that he stole, where did the food come from? It's not the same food that was getting to Biafra. Even at the time, the food that the Igbos were eating before the war started was not coming from Igbo land. It was coming from Ogoja, from Calabar province. There was not a time during the old history where the southeast was self-sufficient as far as food was concerned. Their food was coming from Ogoja even before the war. But the lawyers, the doctors, the architects, the soldiers, the teachers, the lecturers, all of them were eating. Where was the food coming from? I'm not talking about the children. I'm talking about people, not just children. Human beings, adults were in the pictures. Now look at the pictures in Life magazine. The point is that there were two reasons for that. Number one, food was being diverted to the soldiers. Number two, the crates that were getting food into Biafra were loaded with guns. And this was the reason Ojukwu was against the fact that even when the government said let them bring food into Biafra, he said don't bring it through the land corridors. The question I should ask you is this: if your people are hungry and I want to give you food, are you going to tell me in truth and in all honesty with your common sense that food should not come through the land corridors? I should just be flying it into your region. If it was really about the people, how come the people were not fed? You said in any war, feeding soldier takes priority. My question to you, my brother, is where did the food come from? Definitely the food was not coming from the East Central State. If the food was not coming from Enugu, Onitsha, Oka, if the food was not, where was it coming from? The truth of the matter is that the people who went to war did not plan anything. They didn't plan to feed the people. They didn't plan where they were going to get money from. That's why they were stealing money from Nigeria. They didn't plan where they were going to get equipment from. That is why, by the way, 500,000 pounds was given to Ojukwu by the federal government to take care of refugees who had left the north during what he called the pogroms. My question to you is that do you know what Ojukwu used 500,000 pounds to do? The answer is simple. He used it to buy weapons. Guys, if you study the history of what this person did to your people, you will not be here telling me that I said he ran away. He did run away, and it was a shameful thing for him to run, seeing that he started what he couldn't finish. And to answer your question, Obina, the word opinion was formed based on the pictures and the reportage from Biafra in the initial Kini. The person who manufactured it was Ojukwu, working with Robert Goldstein, who was a PR representative, and he's the one that wrote this letter saying that you're not going to allow your people eat with the milk, the food, the medicine that's available, you're not allowing it to come in, therefore I stop working for you. And guess what? By the time it was done, he returned money even to Nigeria, telling you that Nigeria, in fact, let me read to you so it doesn't look like I'm just talking. He says here, I have also this date sent the bond of 200,000 pounds issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria back to them for disposal. My question to you is that who sent that money to Goldstein? Was it not the same federal government that you're castigating? In other words, even in the midst of war, Awolowo was still sending money to Goldstein to take care of Ojukwu's people. That is why Goldstein changed his mind, because he saw that this person was just driven by ambition. He did not care about the people. And if the people today understand what happened in the war, you will understand that your enemy is not the Yoruba guy in Lagos or Awolowo that you have been told about, or just understand the fact that the people who concocted your propaganda machinery, people like Okokon Ndem, people like what's this man's first name, Uche Chukwumerije, Chino Achebe, and Ojukwu, they were the ones who sold you these narratives. It's not me. It's not the truth. And if people change their mind after discovering the truth, you cannot tell us to keep holding on to the propaganda that came before then. So, Obina, to answer your question simply, there was propaganda that led all human beings that have compassion. And if you were there, no matter how terrible you were, you will feel somehow when you saw those people. But when you dig a bit deeper, and you discover that even when food was being sent to them, Ojukwu still said no. Therefore, you know that this is not about the people, it's about a man's ambition. And it's important, if you are able, to know who your enemy is. Obina, you can speak for 1 minute and then we'll go to the next person.
No.